Because of my passion for online entrepreneurship and in believing the impact we can make if we can all discover our purpose and do what we love, the Passion and Purpose podcast was born. I hope to share more inspiring adventures with you, along with the people who have been there and done that. Welcome to the Passion and Purpose podcast, everyone, where we give you inspiring adventures. And today I have a very special guest. She's my very first mentor when I started in the online industry, and her name is Sheila Logan. She's a professional speaker, a podcaster like me. Later on, I will be giving you her podcast link. She's a facilitator and a business flipper. Sheila is also the creator of Yes Women's Network, Lock and Load Marketing, and the Messy and podcast. We all know that the back end is where most business fails. So Sheila helps entrepreneurs clean up the mess or messy back ends of their businesses, saving them time, making them money, and leading them to succeed. Basically, Sheila flips businesses like realtors flip houses. I like that term. Known to their friends and family as the Wonder Woman, she is a survivor on a mission with a true purpose and passion to achieve all the things that we should have. All right, so Sheila, good evening, and I hope that you can tell them more than what I just read to them.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Rosh. And yeah, we are good friends for a long time now. I think almost 10 years, if you can realize that. It's been a long time since we met. And I've loved every minute that I've known you. I think you're amazing.
Thank you so much, Sheila, and I love you too. All right, Sheila, can you please tell them why you started in the industry and what made you decide to become an entrepreneur?
Sure. So in 2011, I found myself in a situation where I was basically a single mom with 5 children, and my 2 youngest children got sick. And I quickly realized that I wasn't going to be able to go to work. And so I contacted my boss. I said, I'm not going to be able to go to work today, but I'll be working from home. At the time, I was already just driving 45 minutes each way with my own laptop to sit at a conference table to work. And so I figured, well, I'll just be able to work from home. So he was on vacation in Florida at the time. And he said, that's not acceptable. When will you be into work? And I said, well, would you like me to drop them off at your house so your wife can take care of them? This was a pandemic in the US at the time, actually, called H1N1, which was a flu that was killing people. And it was very, very devastating. My girls were super sick. And of course, I didn't say that to him, but I told him, I said, look, I can't come in, but I'll work at home. So I worked at home for 2 weeks while they got better. And when I went back into work, he called me into his office and said, I understand that family comes first, but next time something like that happens, that you can't stay home and work. Well, the realtors I was working for those 2 weeks, mostly were on vacation themselves anyway. And I got all of their work done from home. And in the evenings, I started looking for opportunities to be able to work from home because I realized I don't have to be in the office to do this. I never really spoke to the realtors face to face anyway. Everything that they gave me was done online and through different types of software. And so I found the virtual assistant world. And actually, I found you very early on. I was actually looking at another realtor who had posted something, I believe, if you remind me, correct me if I'm wrong, about a blueberry pie. And I started talking to this realtor who turned out to be you in the comments of that post. And we became friends. And I learned about the virtual assistant world, which I fell in love with. And it just came so naturally to me. And I started calling around in the newspaper, speaking to realtors. And I picked up 8 realtors in the first 3 phone calls and quit my job. And so then I started working with realtors, but what I quickly found was that I had created a job for myself. I was just working at home, making the same money, but I was actually paying more in taxes and different things because I owned my own business at the time. And so I started looking more into what it took to run that business from the back end. And that's when I started realizing, well, I didn't have any trouble getting clients. That wasn't a problem for me. So I started my virtual assistant network, which you are a huge proponent of and a friend of from the very beginning. And I started referring other virtual assistants to people who were coming to me. And then I tried coaching for a minute and a half, and I'm not a coach. I tried it. It's not me. I'm a mentor. I don't do coaching. But I also started looking into the real back end of the businesses and how they really worked. And I just fell in love with the way they worked. And so I started studying digital marketing. And that's kind of how I got into doing sales funnels, became my magic piece that I brought in, and I started doing all these sales funnels. I loved it. I wanted to know everything I could learn about sales funnels. But what I also realized is when I went to build a sales funnel for a business is that when I was asking them questions like, what platform is your website built on? What are your brand colors? What are, how are you going to write this ebook? What's in this? What does your sales funnel look like? What email platform are you using? They didn't know the answers to those questions. And I quickly realized that I can build a sales funnel till the cows come home, but unless the back end of their business is working, my sales funnels aren't going to work. So that's kind of how I ended up flipping businesses. So I go in order to build a sales funnel or do their brand or build a website. And in the meantime, I fix all of the other pieces, the automations and everything like that, to be able to help save them time, help them make more money, and be more successful in everything that they're doing, because the back end is where most businesses fail. And it's a mess. You and I both know, because that's where you and I work, is in the back end, and it is messy back there.
Wow, wow. I didn't realize that it was almost 10 years ago when we first met. And at that time, you were a great mentor to me. In fact, I always tell it to everyone that my very first mentor is Sheila, and I'm so proud of that. And I hope
Oh,
you are
thank
proud of
you.
me too.
I am very proud of you. I have been watching you, and you have just gone leaps and bounds. When we first started talking, I think I had been a virtual assistant for maybe 6 months. And for whatever reason, you and I just really connected, like I said, over the blueberry pie. We
Yeah.
connected and we started talking, and I was able to give you some tips. But honestly, you did most of the work yourself, and you built an empire. I mean, I just have been so proud and amazed at all of the things that you've accomplished over the last 10 years. And yeah, it's been 10 years in May, I believe.
Really? I didn't
Yes.
realize.
I know we're getting old, darling.
Because I
Well, I
thought it's
am.
8 years since 2013. That was, I think, 8 years only, Sheila.
Was it? So then I started in 2011. So I guess maybe it was 2 years. Then I was in there before I met you. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
well, it's still a long, long time.
Yes, that's right.
And we're
And
like family.
yes, thank you so much. And the stuffed toy that you sent to Oleg, it's still here, and the little girl is using that right now.
Oh, good. Oh, good. I still have some of the little things that you sent me as well, the cute little things that you sent me. So, and one of our other VA friends also sent me some things. And so I have like a little t-shirt and things from him. So yeah, I love my VAs over in the Philippines.
Oh, that's so cute. Thank you so much, Sheila. Um, Talking about sales funnels, not a lot of people understand it, why it's important, and how they can take advantage of it. As somebody who flips business, I like that term, flipping businesses. Somebody who flips business, can you please give a very brief explanation on what is sales funnel and how they can use it for their business?
Sure. So there's a sales funnel it's the way that you bring people into your business and educate them about what you do. It's the way you build a relationship with them and eventually sell to them. When I first started in 2011, a sales funnel is built just like an actual funnel, like you were going to pour some milk into a bottle or something, right? The top is very wide, and then it gets very narrow at the bottom. And in 2011, when I first started, it took 7 touches for someone to go from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel where they're making purchases, right? Where they're actually giving you money. And touches meaning you've taught them something, they've downloaded something, they've read a blog post, they've seen your ad, whatever those touches are. In 2011, that was about 7 touches that you needed to be able to make a sale. In about 2016, 17, it got to be up to 13 touches. So 13 times you had to reach someone from the top of the sales funnel to where they're purchasing from you. Now in 2019, you won't believe it's 21 touches. So in 2019, I started saying for all of 2019, I said, sales funnels aren't going to work next year. Sales funnels are going to be non-existent because nobody is going to do more than 21 touches. The actual thing now is that it takes 63% of people who learn about you will not buy from you for 3 months. 3 months. So the sales funnel has definitely changed. COVID changed it, but I think the sales funnel was on its way down before then. So I want people to really look at sales funnels very differently than what they used to. And the way that sales funnels used to work is you wanted to get tens of thousands of people in the top of that sales funnel. You want to give them a download. You want to show them something. You want them to listen to your podcast. You want them to somehow learn about you in some way or another. And then you want to provide more and more and more and more value for 3 months until they buy something from you. And the fact is that that's exhausting, and no business is going to survive for those 3 months if they're not making sales. So I want people to look at sales funnels in a little bit different way than they have in the past. When I was a kid, I knew, the people I went to school with, the people I went to church with, the people I'd meet some people at track meets from another town or something like that. Maybe I go to a dance, but I didn't really know people on the other side of the world. I mean, I know as many people in the Philippines as I know in my little town where I live. You know what I mean? And so the world got very, very big when the internet started, and it was really cool. And it is awesome. I love knowing people all over the world. However, what I have seen is that people are kind of tired of that bigness. They're starting to look more closely, and they're trying to get more personable with people. We see that sales are being made through people, not through brands as much anymore. There's so many people who can, if they're really good at branding and really good at marketing, they can sell you tens of thousands of dollars of air, of nothing. You've seen it. You and I both know there's people out there who will charge you tens of thousands of dollars and give you nothing. And
Yeah. I saw a sales funnel and it says, please upgrade to nothing. And they literally gave nothing. And the customers are asking, what is nothing? I just clicked it and I don't know what it is. And it's really nothing.
It's nothing. Yeah. So I've seen so many people come through, and I hear so many horror stories, and especially building websites and doing branding. People will call and say, I hired this person to build a website. Their website was amazing, and it looked like they had all these clients, and I paid them $10, $15, $20,000 to build a website, and I have nothing. Or they started it and then they disappeared, right? So what I'm finding is that people really want to connect with people. So the business brand is important. It's huge. It's key. It's, you have to do it. But I believe 100% that personal branding and making sure that you can be trusted. In fact, that's what Seth Godin says, people buy from people who they know, like, and trust. How can they know, like, and trust you? That's really what the sales funnel is you want to teach people how to know, like, and trust you. And I have some tips and ideas for that, but it is proven fact that 47% of people will buy from you if you first build a relationship with them. So just going to, I swear people will send me a connection on LinkedIn, and the very first email or message they send me says, hey, buy this. Nobody's going to buy that. It doesn't matter. They're not going to buy it. So you're not going to go from no sales to one touch selling. It's not going to happen. That's why podcasting is so important, because you are in the ear of the listener in a very intimate, personal way, and you're speaking directly to them, and you are showing them that you know what you're talking about, and you're not going to disappear. And it's very important for people to do their research. So the sales funnel is a little different. And so I'm going to teach you a little bit different tricks on how to make a sales funnel actually work for you. But basically, that's a long answer to a sales funnel is how you find prospects, have them build a relationship with you, and then get them to buy from you.
Wow, thank you so much. I like that. Have them build relationships from you. In fact, the last person that I interviewed, I think like 2 or 3 episodes ago, talked about story brand. And
Yes.
from there, people are having a hard time determining a compelling story. And sometimes they're also having a hard time sharing what they have, because sometimes I understand that we have this little space that we wanted to keep it, just there. It's a family secret, or it's my personal space and I don't want the whole world to know about it. But as a brand, as a business, we have to have a foundation, like where we started. People should know about that, and they should be able to relate to that before they trust you, before they like you. And I like the simplicity of your definition of sales funnel. But 21 touches is really too overwhelming. I was just doing 7, Sheila. I don't want to do 21, please. So how can people make that 21 touches lesser, or how can they make a more efficient funnel?
Right. So funnels can be done in so many different ways, and there's so many different platforms and different ways that you can actually build it. But keep in mind that there's not one particular platform that's better or worse than the other. They're all very similar, everything from just building on their WordPress site to using something like Lead Pages, anything of that nature that you can use. But for me, what I find is that, we talk about story branding, and that is a huge piece of sales funnels, is that the first thing you have to do for a sales funnel to work is to really know, who are you talking to? And once you know who you're talking to and where you can find them, you can actually reverse engineer a sales funnel. And the way that you're going to reverse engineer that is by learning what it is that your customers want from you and using their own words to make a sale using their own words. So let's kind of do a little bit of backtracking. So the first thing you got to do is know who you're talking to. Whenever we all start out our businesses, we start out our businesses for different reasons, but we all know why, right? Why did we do it? Did we do it just to feed our family? Most of the time, not. That's really not a good enough compelling reason to be crazy like you and me. We're crazy. We work 80 hours a week, so we don't have to work 40 for somebody else. And we do that because we want to change the world. That's one thing that you and I have always had in common, and why our hearts connected so quickly at the beginning was that we did not like the way the virtual assistant community is being treated. We didn't like the way that they're being paid outside of the United States, and the way that they weren't getting hired in the United States because their prices were too high. And that's the one thing that you and I really talked about. And we were super passionate about making a change in that industry and showing people how to actually start that virtual assistant business and really grow it and use it to actually make money and not just get by on. And so we knew why we were doing it, and that was a huge drive for us. So in order to reverse engineer that, once you know why, is that you kind of start at the very end. What is it at the very end of the day that you want your customers to have from you? What is it that you want them to feel? What is it that you want to give them? How do you want to affect change in their life? And when you know that, and you go back to why you started it, that's going to be your sales funnel. So let's use the example of the virtual assistant world, because you and I both are very well versed in that. So we can talk about that.
Please go ahead.
So the fact is when I started my business working with virtual assistants, it was because virtual assistants kept coming to me saying, how are you doing it? I mean, you came out of nowhere. We didn't know who you were 2-3 months ago. And now here you are like saying, I've got too many clients. What am I going to do? And that is the number one problem.
And I'm giving them all out. You were referring clients to everybody.
Yeah. So that was actually one of the biggest things that virtual assistants struggled with, was getting clients. And I'm 100% sure that's still one of their biggest problems, is how do I get my clients, right? So I knew that was something I wanted to help with. I also just was so passionate about helping my customers that I wanted to make sure when I referred a virtual assistant to them or a client to a virtual assistant, I needed that match to be perfect. And that's kind of why I started my network of virtual assistants. And so the sales funnel became, the virtual assistant would fill out an application, the client would fill out an application, and then I would match the two together. And it worked really well, but I couldn't make any money doing it. So that became a little bit of a problem for me, and which is why it didn't last as long as I wish it had. But what I did find is that making that magic, that piece, was what got the sales funnel to work, because I knew how to speak to the virtual assistants. I knew what they needed. I knew how to speak to the clients, and I knew what they needed. And then I could connect the two. So when you're building your business, always make sure you're doing something that's going to make you some money. But at the end of the day, that magic piece, when you see it in the eyes of the people that you're working with, that's going to be your end result. And so right before that is going to be, how are you going to educate both sides of that, or one side? In my situation, I was educating both sides. So let's say the virtual assistants. How am I going to educate the virtual assistants that what I'm going to do for them is going to benefit them? And that became my message. And in order to find that, how am I going to speak to them? How am I going to educate them? I actually just went into the virtual assistant groups, looked at the questions they were asking, looked at the struggles they were having. I spoke with loads of virtual assistants. Like I said, I actually did coaching for 1.5 minutes. And so by listening to them and what their problems were, that became the voice of my sales funnel. And then I just needed to automate it and figure out a way to get people flowing in. And that's kind of how I wrote my ebook. It's called I Want to Be a Virtual Assistant, Now What? And that ebook just flew off the shelves. I'm turning that into an actual book and going to be putting it on Amazon this year. But by creating that book, it answered all of their objections. It answered all their problems with how do I start it? How do I build it? How do I grow it? How do I keep clients? How do I come up with pricing? All of the other questions at the same time, it educated them in a way that then I had them in my funnel to find out, can I make that match? And I'll tell you what, the reason I couldn't make any money doing it is that I love doing it so much. And I love the virtual assistant community so much that I
You
just
don't
couldn't
want to
charge them.
charge.
I didn't want to charge them. That's 100%. And you know
Yeah.
that because I don't think I
Yeah.
charged you a dime or
No.
anybody else
No.
because I loved it so much. So make sure you're charging, and that's okay. That's a whole other topic for a different podcast.
Yeah, and I was telling you to charge and we can make money out of it. Not too much, but just enough so you would, have your own percentage as well because we were doing a lot of effort and it's for free. And I learned
Yeah.
a lot from that experience because I know that I was doing a lot of, things for other people for free too, but I have to keep it balanced. And it's
Yeah.
really hard if you really wanted to do something. And I'll tell you that in a different story, but now let's proceed.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's funny because at the same time as I wasn't charging, I was telling you weren't charging enough. So
Yeah.
I was preaching something. Teachers teach things that they need to learn themselves. And that was my struggle. I didn't want other people to have to run into that. But once I knew what that voice was, the funnel actually just built itself. I knew what they needed. I knew how to get them in it. And then I knew how to flip them. So for me, a sales funnel is more than just the bring in a 10,000 prospects, convert them into know, liking, and trusting you, and convert them into becoming a customer. It's caring about them and educating them. And going a step back further is to share your story. Like you said, story branding is so important. Whenever I talk about marketing, the number one thing I always talk about in marketing is you have to find a way to share your story in a way that it's about the person you're speaking to, not about yourself. That's a really hard thing to do. And
Yes.
so I would suggest anybody go back and listen to that episode that you did where you talk about story branding, because suddenly your story has to become their story. And so now that I'm doing the digital marketing agency and I'm doing the Woman's Network, my story is that I was a single mom of 5 children and I needed to be home with my kids and I needed to make money. And in order to do that, I looked at the skills that I had and how could I, turn that into something where I could be home. And by sharing that story in a way where I say to people, I understand that you're at home with children and you want to be able to make some money, or you want to be able to help your family with their finances. If your husband's working, if you have lost your job because of COVID or any other reason, if you are tired of going, to the corporate world. And so I turn it around now in a way that I share my story in a way that is more about the people who are listening as opposed to about me. And so when you do it that way, they see that you can put yourself in their shoes and you're super authentic and real with them. If you remember, my very first brand was actually a frog, right? Leapfrog VA.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my business didn't take off till I put myself in my business. And once I put my face to it, it became more than what it was. And I was able to be authentic with people and share my story. And my about video was literally me telling people how to be a great virtual assistant while you had children at home, while my children were in the background of the video making a mess of things. I don't know if you ever saw that video.
No, I haven't. I'll find it.
I showed it to my kids the other day because they were all really little. Now they're older and married. And so I was showing them, I was like, oh, y'all remember when I did this? And so then the story became about them, but they saw that I understood it. And so my sales funnel then changed into a way where I could go and share my story with people. And that became the new top of the sales funnel. So first it was a little ebooks. It was 11 ebook series on how to be a virtual assistant. And next it was sharing my story wherever I could share it. It didn't matter where I could share it. And so because I reached this level of a relationship with people, I became real to them. My story became their story. Their story became my story. My success became their success. You know, you and I have talked so many times about how can we manage it with kids. And I don't know how many meetings that we've had where, you know, your kids or my kids have come in the room and, you know, they've been playing around. And I've talked to your husband, Sam, several times about things. And, you know, and you met my husband my new husband before we started here. And so by building that relationship, that sales funnel of relationship building is how you can convert people in 2 to 3 touches, really. Because if people understand that you understand, they like you and they will buy from you. So when I first started my virtual assistant network, I set up my scheduler to have 15-minute meetings every 15 minutes from 8 till 5. Well, little did I know, don't do that, because after like a week, I looked at my schedule and I had 15-minute calls every 15 minutes for 2 weeks booked solid, 8 hours a day, no time to, you know, biological breaks were out the window. I was on the phone for 8 hours a day for 2 weeks. And during that 2 weeks time, which was a nightmare, by the way, but what I learned from that is how to convert somebody in 15 minutes from someone who I've never met to someone who is ready to get their credit card out by the end of that 15 minutes.
Wow.
And so let me tell you how you do that.
Please.
Because I'm telling you, this was a lot of phone calls, but you know, the first ones I was like, this is ridiculous. By the end, I was like, I got this down. So there's 3 things you do in that 15-minute call. Okay. The first thing you do is you say, tell me about your business and why you love it. And for 5 minutes, you let them do the talking. Now, here's a really cool thing. Arel Moody is one of my favorite speakers, and he has a book called The Art of Likability. If people think you like them, they like you just because they think you like them.
Ooh.
True fact. People like to talk about themselves, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you let them talk for 5 minutes about their business, they get so excited. And so what you can do is show them you are excited about their business too. So while they're telling you about their business, you're making notes about the words they're using, about their passion, about why they're doing it. And you get excited along with them. The number one best-selling tool that anybody can use in any sales funnel at all is to be as excited about your prospect's business as they are. And if you show them that, they will just automatically love you because they think you love them and they think you love your business, which if you're working with the right client, you do, right? The second 5 minutes, what you're going to do is you're going to say, if you could wave a magic wand and fix your business, what would you fix? What would be the thing that you would fix? Now, the key to this is that they're going to talk for 4 minutes about all the things that actually are just little things that are kind of maybe not working. And in the last minute to minute and a half, they're going to go, oh my gosh, you know what? This is the real problem in my business. And at the very end, it's going to hit them because they have to go through the whole business. They have to go through all the little pieces to find out what really is the problem. Because guess what? They will figure it out by talking it out to you. So second 5 minutes, you're taking notes about all the problems they have in their business. And you're using those very same words. If they say to you, freemium, I don't know, have you ever heard that word, freemium?
Yes, I did.
It's such a weird word, I know, but you know, you and I call it a lead magnet or an ebook or, you know, so listen to those words they're using and use those same words back to them, right? So listen to what they're telling you, write down all the things that they're struggling with. And then the number one thing at the very end that they're like, oh my gosh, this is really the biggest problem I have. Now, those first 10 minutes are all about them. And you're letting them do all the talking and you're making all the notes and you're listening. But it's very important for you to watch the clock because otherwise you'll be on there for 2-3 hours listening to them talk. So you kind of have to start wrapping it up about 4.5 minutes. You start wrapping it up. Oh, I think I understand. What I hear you saying is, I think I understand where you're coming from because I've seen this. I've had a client who had this same problem, and this is what I did. Don't make it about you, but make sure that they understand that you understand, and make sure you're watching the clock. Like I said, it'll just take up all your time. Last 5 minutes. What you're going to do, this is like the most brilliant sales funnel I've ever used. I'm not kidding. It's worked for me like 80% of the time. The last 5 minutes, what you're going to do is you're going to say to them, here's what I hear you saying. This is your problem. This is your why. This is how you want to do it. This is all these things. And you're repeating back to them. And then you say, I can fix that for you for X number of dollars by this time. And you stop talking.
Wow.
And they will say, yep, wow. Oh my gosh, you mean really? Yes, you can fix that for them. And what you have to literally, like, it's so painful. Sometimes they can take up to 30 seconds, but you have to just let them process that you just told them that everything they just told you that's wrong with their business, or the one biggest problem, that you can fix. Now, if you can't fix it, don't tell them you can fix it. Tell them you know somebody who can. Right? Make sure you have these things in your back pocket. I call these my core 100. It's a list of core 100 of people that I can refer out to for things that I don't do. I don't do Google ads. I hate that stuff. I don't do Facebook ads. I hate that stuff, and so I hire that out. So I say, you know what? I can't help you with that, but let me tell you who can. And that's the end of the call. But if you are listening to all of that and you can tell them I can fix your problem, and you stop and listen to them, they know that you heard them because you used their same words back to them, which they don't realize is a human nature thing, that they go, oh my gosh, she really heard me. They just don't realize that all you did was just say the same words back to them, right?
Yeah.
And then you wrap up that call by making sure that you have an invoice ready to go out by the time the call is over, or within 2 to 3 minutes after that call is over, so that they can buy from you while they're still pumped and excited. Don't give them a day. So this goes back to, do you remember, did you ever hear my class about creating the on-the-fly sheet?
No.
So it's a pricing sheet that has all of your prices listed out. So a lot of people, I always encourage VAs, I always encourage them to do like project-based, not necessarily hourly-based type pricing, because you don't want to trade your time for money. You can go work for somebody else and do that. So what you want to do is project basing. So you create this on the fly sheet, is what I call it. And you literally break out every single thing that you do, how long about average that it takes you to do it, and a price for that particular item. And so, for example, flipping a business, I have a price for reviewing their financials, going back over what's working, what's not working, looking at all of their marketing materials, reviewing all of their website and social media platforms, and reviewing the products and services they have. And so I have all of those things separately listed out in a price next to each one. As I'm listening to someone on that 5-minute call, I'm going tick, tick, tick. They need this, 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 and this. I have a price before they're done.
Brilliant.
In that first 10 minutes. I already know how much I'm going to charge them to do it. And if you have it set up on something like a Dubsado, or I think you can do it on PayPal, where you have those line items, you can just go in and add those line items to the invoice. By the time you're done with that call, you check your inbox. I have an invoice for you there. We can get started today. Right?
Wow.
That's the sales funnel that will give you the magic that you're looking for, because they spoke with you. They know that you understand and you're as excited about what they're doing as you are. They know you can fix it, and you've already sent them an invoice, and you can start today. Oh my gosh. That's way better than 21 times.
Yeah.
I mean, how many ebooks have you downloaded that you actually read, Rosh?
A lot.
Have you read
yours?
Well, I know you read mine because you asked me questions about them, but I've really downloaded, and I can tell you a lot of people download them and they never even open them. I don't know how many times I have downloaded it and I never even opened them. And I would say there's a pretty huge percentage of people who, if they look back and they say to themselves, yeah, I never really opened that. And now I get all this email from these people, and I don't even open their emails because they email me 500 times a week. And I'm just, they get sick of hearing from you. And after 21 times, I don't know, unless you are providing so much value that they just can't stand anymore, they're going to buy from you. I just can't see how that's going to work. There's actually, I have this quote I was going to read to you by Jay Bear. Make your marketing so useful, people would pay you for it. Right? So
Yes, that's
you
right.
have to give them so much value that at the end of the day, that they would pay you for it. But at the same time, what if you can convert them in 15 minutes? What if you don't have to create 15 ebooks and 7 webinars and do 50 podcasts? And what if you don't have to do all of those things in order to get the person that you really want to speak to? And so for me, if you know who you're talking to, if you're authentic and real with them, and you share your story in a way that they understand it, if you educate them, and to me, that's the best way to touch someone, to get them to listen, is educate them, let them know that you know what you're talking about, and then you automate it and care for them. That's how the sales funnels really work.
I was amazed. My meetings are in 30-minute interval. I can't imagine I can do it in 15, but I'll give it a try.
Well, I'll tell you,
love that.
I've taught it to so many people, and every time I get a call back and they tell me that it has worked for them. So I'd love to hear if if it works for you, because it's really this kind of magic sauce that really does work. But it might take a minute. I was surprised. I actually taught this to a bookkeeper. She hired me to do some consulting with her on how she could pick up more clients. And I said, well, tell me about your sales calls. How many did you have last week? I had 7 sales calls last week. I said, how many did you convert? She said, none. I said, okay, let's go over what you're doing. Her sales calls were an hour and a half long. And she was basically spending the entire hour and a half, and I'll wonder how many of their listeners are doing this, telling that person how good they are at what they do and how they can help this person to fix their problem. But first, they didn't listen. They just didn't listen. And so when the person on the other side of the phone or the Zoom call or elevator knows that you are hearing them, that's a higher conversion rate. She had 3 sales calls the next week and converted all 3.
Who?
In 15-minute calls. So It works.
I'm really excited because the way that I teach digital marketing right now, Sheila. So there is a step, of course, there is a process on how to convert a discovery call. But this one, I think, will change that. I'm gonna tweak that a little bit and apply your suggestions, and I'm excited to get started with that.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear how it works for you, because I really do think, it's the truth. If people know that you are excited about what they're doing, and you can show them how you can help them starting today, it's a no-brainer.
Just 2 questions. Tell me something about yourself, and the magic wand question. It's perfect because in the sales script that is normally being given out there by everybody else, there's like 21, 30 questions, and you have to, ask all of them. And I don't follow that because I don't feel comfortable answering them either. So
Yeah.
I'm jumping from one important question to another based on what I research on that customer. But with your 2 question, it's really possible to convert 1 customer in 15 minutes. And I love
yeah, and you let them handle the script per se, right?
Yeah.
Because entrepreneurs' brains don't work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We go 1, 15, 39,
That's
75.
right.
So if you let them do this huge brain dump on you and you're taking notes on it, suddenly you become their hero. Number 1, because you listened, and number 2, when you spoke back, you spoke in their language.
That's right. That's right.
And I had this one call. I didn't even have the invoice done. And she goes, can you hold on a second? And I was like, sure, whatever. So I held on a second. She came back and she goes, I just went to find my credit card. And so she had found a credit card before she wanted to read the number to me over the phone. I'm like, no. Don't read me the number. I'm going to send you the invoice. We're going to go this way. You know what I mean? So, but I would suggest always, 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 for anyone who's listening, before you hire someone, do your research.
Yes, that's right.
And make sure that you're hiring somebody that is real and isn't going to disappear on you, and that has really good real references. And I always offer that to my people. I always say, here's a list of people you can call. It's actually on my website. You can go check out any of these people, ask them what they feel about me, how, is what she wrote on her website about you real, and contact them and see. And so I think if you can do that, then that just adds the extra level of trust with yourself.
That's right. Thank you so much. Now, you've been telling a lot of, things about automation. That's what I wanted to ask because there is a simpler way of automating a sales funnel, of course, and then there is the, lesser expensive way of doing that. Can you tell us more about that? Because people doesn't know how to start a sales funnel with budget or without one.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Like I told this to my husband on our first date. I said, I told him on the first date when I was telling him about business. I said, there's something you should know about me. I said, I'm cheap and easy. And he goes, what? And I said, well, if there's a cheaper way to do it, I'll find it. And if there's an easier way to do it, I'll find it because I'm a freaking single mom and I'm broke, right? So the best way to automate a sales funnel is to look at the tools that you currently have and make them work for you. The fact is that you can go out and buy all the fancy different bells and whistles for building a sales funnel and automating, and it's not going to work for you unless you use them. So
That's right.
the right tool is the one that you have and the one that you use. There's not going to be any one perfect one for anybody else, right? We've all used, well, you and I probably have used every single email platform out there and every single sales funnel page builder. And I personally, I use something like WordPress
Yeah,
only.
me too.
I don't feel like I should have to pay, I think is it $99 a month or $100, whatever for like
ClickFunnels, I
lead
think, is
pages.
$150 a
Yeah,
month.
a
Yeah,
month. So
lead pages is 100.
yeah, find a tool that is affordable for you and that you're going to use. I personally just build it on regular WordPress pages. I believe that you can probably build those even on the other platforms too, like Wix. You can build one on Square. I mean, just so long as you have a way of collecting emails, which you can do that on Square. So I believe you could probably even do it, on something like PayPal, but you want to build that list. So you want to have somewhere the list can go. So if MailChimp works for you, use a MailChimp. If Aweber works for you. Personally, my very, very, very favorite email platform is ActiveCampaign. It's my number one favorite
You've been
platform
using that for years.
for years. Yes. And I've used them all, everything from ConvertKit to Infusionsoft to now Keep. I've seen that. My podcast partner actually works for Keep. And so I've used them all. And for me, ActiveCampaign works for me. That
Mhm.
doesn't mean it's going to be right for everybody. Right. And then, so as long as you have for your sales funnel to automate your sales funnel, what you really need is a page where people can go and leave you their email, which I believe you can actually even do that on Facebook now. That
Yes, yes.
page you can collect emails on Facebook. So just find what's working for you and what's within your price. Make sure you're collecting those email addresses. The other thing you want to really automate is any kind of, like if you have a membership site or some kind of recurring way for someone to pay you, have something that you can use for that. And you can use anything for that, any kind of shopping cart. My personal favorite is Thrivecart. You buy it one time and it's yours. It's a shopping cart. You can do affiliates on it. You can do coupons on it. You can do your landing pages on it. You can do everything on it. If you go to my website, Lock and Load Marketing, and that's just with the letter N in between, lockandloadmarketing.com. I have a tools page there. Those are the tools that I love. And Thrivecart, I purchased it maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm telling you, that thing is so intuitive and so easy to use. The easiest shopping cart I have ever used. No coding required. You can do upsells and downsells. You can do discounts. You can do coupon codes. You can do affiliates. You can do all the landing page. You can do everything from there. But you buy it one time and it's yours for life. And so I absolutely love that platform. It's the easiest shopping cart. But like I said, I mean, when I first started, I used PayPal and Facebook. I didn't have anything else. I didn't have a website or anything when I first started. And so find ways that you can keep in touch with people. And that might be through text. You can do that through text as well. There's texting platforms. Call Loop is one that I'm familiar with. That's super easy to use. You can do, I think it's like 5 cents a text or something. So then you can really keep track of that in your budget. But the tools that work for automation are the ones that you have and the ones that you use. Don't go buy some big fancy platform because I said to buy it or that I use it. Go use what you have. I actually have an episode on my podcast with Steve Dotto, and he's one of the top tech guys in Canada. And he talks specifically about technology. What technology is the best thing to use? And he basically says, whatever you have, find out how to use it, and that's the best one to use. Don't go out and spend a bunch of money.
Mhm. That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
And some people are just getting excited when they're hearing a sales pitch, from different companies. And sometimes it looks like what do you call it? Like a buffet table because there's a lot of them. Right? There's tons of email marketing software. There's tons of sales funnel software, and you can't really pick. You don't know what you know unless you're there, and it would be very hard to buy all of them just to get to know them a little bit. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's really not going to work. So you can start with what you have, and you can do it with WordPress. No automations needed. Wow, that's very nice. What are the steps that you can suggest, Sheila? For example, they have a WordPress. I personally use HubSpot. I have a
Yeah.
WordPress. I have a
Mhm.
HubSpot. Is there
Mhm.
anything else that you wanted to add in the process? Collect their emails, and then bring them to the discovery session right away, or give value, or what are the next few steps so that we can bring them to your Calendly account?
Yeah. So it really depends on your customer, right? So if you really know who you're talking to, you know what they're going to like, right? So if I were speaking to someone like my husband who is technologically challenged, I'm going to find out something that's going to be so simple that is a no-brainer, that basically the page he goes to just says, enter your email for magic, right? And that's all I wanted to say. But if you're speaking to someone who needs a little bit more information, you can send them to a landing page where you give them more information. So once you really know who your person is, you know what kinds of things that they use, where you're going to find them, you may just decide to do that right on Facebook, or you may decide to do it on your page. But what you want to do is just find that way of collecting their emails legally. Make sure you understand the Can
Yes.
Spam Act law so that when you're communicating with them, I don't know if you know this, but if you communicate wrong, that Can Spam Act law, it's $43,000 per email address per person who is assisting you in building that email list to screw it up. So I just picked up a client several months ago who did not understand that you can't just email 13,000 people a day through Gmail.
Yes.
And when I told them about the Can Spam Act, 13,000 emails, and there were 3 people that were doing that a day, you do the math, that's a lot of money they would have lost. So we moved them over to a platform where they could use the emails, properly. But don't overcomplicate it. That's the biggest thing, is collect their email address, have a way to follow up with them, and find a way to get them to listen to you. And in certain situations, like for me, it's through podcasting. So most of my clients come through my podcast or through podcasts that I'm on. That seems to work really well for me. Other people, it might be a webinar. So in that case, you need to find out what kind of webinar platforms work well for you. You can use YouTube. That's free to do webinars, right? So find something that's going to find out if that's going to work. And then you can start looking at the different platforms that you want to use. Or when you hire an assistant, they may suggest something, but make sure that's just a tool that you're going to use. So once you collect the emails and you start educating them and sharing the information with them, get them on a call. I actually
Right away.
recorded a
Yeah.
podcast. Yeah, I recorded a podcast yesterday with a man who sells businesses, and he was teaching the exit strategy. And he goes, "Oh, if you have questions, just call me." He gave his phone number right on the podcast. I'm going, there's no way I would do that. I don't want my phone blowing up like that. But I do have my phone number for my podcast on there, so people can call and they can leave their questions on that number. But just make sure people know how to get a hold of you, and get them on a call as quick as you can. Make it personal as quick as you can. Build a relationship as quick as you can. And whether that's through a podcast, through a video, through social media, through an email where you share your story, if you can get on a stage. I know I had 8 speaking engagements in March of last year, and I was so proud because I was like 8 I had scheduled already by March, and they all got canceled on my 50th birthday. It was a really bummer. So find that way to get them to speak to you, so that you can listen, so that you can then speak back to them. To me, that is the smartest thing to do. And you can't automate a relationship. What you can
Yes,
automate is the education.
the
Um,
process.
it's the process, right? You can automate those things, but know what you want to say to them and to build that relationship, and then use those tools to do that. Through your HubSpot, you can send out emails. Um, like I said, 47% of people are more likely to buy from you if you have first built a relationship. So by sending out those emails that are not personalized, and you're just like dumping 10,000 people into the top of your sales
Yes.
funnel, right? And let's say only 50 of those people actually are ideal client. Why wouldn't you want to just speak to those 50 people instead, right? So speak directly to the people who want to hear from you. And once you're speaking to them and they hear you and they know what you're talking about, they are going to feel this attachment to you that will make them want to get on the phone with you. And so then you can have something like Calendly. I use You Can Book Me. I know there's like a million different calendar programs out there.
Yes.
Definitely use a calendar program. I would really suggest that you also pick a day for those calls.
Yeah.
Don't just open up your entire week
Your entire week.
Monday through Friday. So actually I do calls on Mondays and Thursdays. Wednesdays are my podcast recording day. Friday's my editing day. And so I have days, where I block out this day, I'm going to do all my consulting calls. And so that just makes it easier and make sure you're giving yourselves breaks in there. But once you get them scheduled on your calendar, you have their email address, so you can follow up with them. But make sure that you are on time to your meetings. Make sure that if you say you're going to call at 7:00, that you call at 7:00. You don't call at 6:59 or 7:01, because that's going to show, that you can be relied on. And make sure you do show up and that you come prepared. And those are the things that you really need to do to make it work and flow. But really, for automation, what you really need is just somewhere to put their email, a way for them to get on a call with you, and a way for you to follow up with them. And whatever tools that works out with you is the one that you should use.
Yes, I have a little trick on that. I'm not sure if you're also doing it. What I did is I created a page on my website. So it's rochefel.com/calendar. And that's just it. I give it away to everyone. Then once they hit that calendar button, they will be able to see, the calendars, the schedules that are open. And then once they schedule, it will automatically create a Zoom meeting link that will follow up an hour a day and an hour before the scheduled meeting. And for example, they missed, the meeting link. I also have this page called rochefel.com/meeting. So I don't have to remember the Zoom link, and I don't have to go to the to Calendly or to my email and then check it out again. So I'll just give it right away, rochefel.com/meeting. I'll just have to make sure that I don't have a meeting at that time. So that's it.
Yep. Well, that's what I have too. So if they want to schedule an appointment to be on the podcast, they go to my website /apply. Or if they want to submit a question for the experts to answer, they go to AMA. Apparently that's a thing like now, Ask Me Anything, AMA. I didn't know that until like last
I didn't
week.
know that until now.
Okay, so, good. So we both learned something. So my co-host, he's like, you need to create a page that says, themessybackend.com/AMA, so people can submit their questions for the show. And I was like, okay, what does AMA mean? But so yeah, I can send people. So for example, I had a couple people reach out to me on LinkedIn. They said, hey, I know somebody who'd be great for your podcast. I said, hey, that's awesome. Go send them to this page. It says apply. I get all the information I need. And at that time, I also get all the information I need. If they're on the show, I already have their bio. I already have all of that information beforehand. Before they even schedule, I've got everything I need. So I'm not having to follow up like you had to do with me. I feel so bad. You had to follow up with me and go, hello, you're supposed to fill this out last week. So I don't want to have to do that. And also on my calendar program, I have a thank you email that goes out as well, because I was finding I was forgetting to do that.
Yes.
So, sending that thank you email out afterward is very important too. So making sure, and if you do that after, your calls too, you send out, let people know how grateful you are for them, and ask for referrals. If a customer that you've worked with is so happy, you just say, hey, I'd love a referral from you. I'd love for you to leave a review on Facebook. I'd love for you to leave a review on LinkedIn or my podcast or whatever. People are more than happy to do that. And the best thing there too is to send them a link Here's where you go to do that. Don't make them go hunt for it.
Yeah,
Make it as easy for them as you possibly
it's
can.
possible.
Yeah. And the reminder emails are always good too.
Yes, 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 that's right. Wow. I think everybody who's going to be listening to this podcast or watching us on YouTube will have an aha moment when they hear everything. Because I can already think like what we're talking about can be converted to 5 blogs already. Right. And what I do after each podcast, I write everything, everything that my guest talked about, the most sensible things that we discussed. But right now, I think every 5 minutes you're saying something good.
Oh, good. I hope so. I hope to bring value to your listeners. Absolutely.
Wow, it is, it is. And in fact, you taught me something today. The 15-minute process of a meeting, because just, it was Tuesday when I was talking to someone who is also an expert. She is a business psychologist, and our topic is about business meetings. And so this is it. How are you going to shortcut those business meetings to close them in 15 minutes with just 2 questions? That is amazing.
Yeah, I can't remember who it is. Michael Hyatt, actually, he's the no meeting guy. Like he believes that you should not have to have meetings, and he finds ways for people to have shorter meetings. And so, like, you go into the meeting and you don't do all this extra stuff, and you can get in and out of the meeting very quickly. With the big as the world is, and as much ways we have as communicating, there's got to be ways that we can minimize that kind of stuff. Like, I know your time is valuable, so let's just do this, this, and this. Set an intention for what you want to do in the meeting and get it done with. I'm all about that.
Whew. One of my weakness when I was starting is sales and marketing, and I learned it through the process. And I was closing, pretty much like a decent percentage of closing rate. But I think this will top it up a notch. This process, and I'm excited to try it. And my students, I am imagining like a little mock-up meetings in 15 minutes, that we can do during the class. Wow, amazing. Sheila, is there anything else that you wanted to add? Because I know that there's a lot of things going on in your brain out there, and it's good to dump it, from time to time. And I know that you're excited to share some. Is there something else that you wanted to, give them all about sales funnels and how to make it, simpler and easier for them?
The simplest thing I can say is just make sure that you're taking your customers on a relationship journey, not a sales journey. My kids are so funny. They're like, "Oh, Mom, you are such a salesman." I'm like, "No, I'm not." And they're like, "But Mom, you're like, everybody you talk to buys something from you." And I'm like, "Well, maybe." But when I look back over it, all I remember myself doing and all I remember experiencing is me getting excited about what they're doing and making sure that I remember why I'm doing it. And by keeping myself passionate and excited about what they're doing, it makes me a better salesperson, simply because I want them to be happy. I want them to be successful. When I speak with someone, that I've coached or mentored like yourself, and you say to me, you changed my life. You helped me with this. You did this for me. There's not enough money in the world that can pay for that. You know what I mean? So for me, that's the end goal that I want to have, is that, when I talked to a virtual assistant about 5 years ago that I coached, maybe 9 years ago, I guess. And she says that she went from being, I don't even know what a virtual assistant is, to building a VA team, and then sold her VA team for like a lot of money, more money than I make in a year. I was so proud, you know what I mean? Like, to be able to know that she did all the work. All I did maybe is turn her and point her down the yellow brick road. But if you keep that in mind as you're building it, and not the dollar signs will follow all of that.
That's correct. I agree. In fact, I heard Dean Graziosi in one of his speeches in a Tony Robbins event, and he said something about influential marketing, because I use the term relationship marketing because I really don't want sales. I don't want people to think that I'm selling them something. I want them to think that I'm helping them get something done, and they just have to pay me a little something about it. but he used the term influential marketing, which is kind of different, because he said that you will influence people into, letting them buy something, and not really push them or compel them to buy something because you think that it's needed, or you think that it's gonna, bring more profit into your pocket. So it's interesting how, our humanness, the human, they call the human centered, human centeredness, if that's, an actual word. We really have to tap into that, and that is something that is already innate in all of us. We just have to find it. We just have to find the connection. How can our skill, how can our passion, how can our purpose help someone that also needs that particular service, right?
Yeah, I actually have a podcast with a gal from Australia, and I can see her face right in front of me, but I cannot remember her name for the life of me. But her podcast is about human marketing, marketing human to human. And you're absolutely right. If you can influence someone and you can make a difference in their life, the fact is that, and this is what I did not understand when I first started, is that doing work for free or receiving something for free does not have the same end result. I think you're the exception to the rule, because you took everything I said and you like applied it, man. You were just like probably my best student of all time. But most people that I do things for free or a discount, I find that they are not as invested. So keep in mind when you're influencing people that you're making a difference in their life, and them giving you money or paying you for your time or your service or your product is them investing in themselves. It's not just them investing in you. It's not that they're paying you. It's that they are doing their part. Your part is to teach and share and do and give a product or whatever it is. Their part is to pay for it and then to take their own action. Without those two pieces, things kind of fall apart. 100% of the time, if I've given somebody a friends or family discount, I have kicked myself in the tail because they are not as invested as I am. And so you have to, that exchange is a mental, thing that happens inside of both of you. And so that really does have to happen for the complete process to work. So it's okay to charge money. It's hard. It's painful at first. But once you realize if they pay you $1,000 for something and you give them $1,500 back of services and products, then that was a great exchange. If they don't pay you for anything and you give them $15,000 products, they're not going to appreciate it.
Yes. And they're not going to take action.
Nope.
I
have to be willing
learned
to invest in
the hard way.
Yes. Yeah.
Because sometimes if you get something for free, you're lazy to follow through on your own dreams, on your own roadmap. And sometimes you really have to kick your own butt or find someone who will do it. And if you've invested enough and your pocket was hurt a little, you will really have to make something out of it, because it's an investment. That's why it's called an investment. It's not just a cost. It's not just a dollar sign.
Yeah. And I know people who actually do that. They would say, maybe at the end of that 5-minute call, they would say, here's what I can do for you. And your investment is going to be X number of dollars, and we can start now. If you say it that way, that might change a little bit of it mentally too. But they have to be willing to do their part. And part of that is to make sure that they pay you. And as hard as it is, it's just something that you have to get used to. And I like your idea of practicing. I practiced with my client that I was telling you about earlier, the bookkeeper. I practiced with her. I actually did a sales call with her. And she was like, well, can you really? Because I said, no, this is a test call. She goes, but I said, no, this was not a sales call. I said, but do you see the difference in how you felt at the end of this practice call? You know what I mean? So practicing that, I remember the very first time that a VA asked me to do some consulting with her, and I said, $149 came out of my mouth, and I kind of vomited a little bit in my throat when I said it. And she said, yes. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what? I couldn't believe that she said yes. Suddenly that number became a real number to me. So practice saying it out loud. About 6 years ago or so, I got a call from a guy who I'd met in a digital marketing group, and he had called me to consult about a YouTube video that they had that was going viral. And they says, we're getting 10,000 emails a day and messages on this YouTube. He says, we shut the video off because we didn't know what to do with it. I know. I'm like, you did what? So he hired me to help him know what to do with all of these people that were contacting him. And at the time, I was going through a real personal struggle, and I didn't want to do it. And I offered other people. He's like, no, but I want you to do it. And I says, well, okay, I'll help you over the next 4 months or so to be $4,000. And he was going to get one phone call with me once a month, and he would get emails with me through the month. And he said yes. And so I got paid, ended up only doing 3 phone calls with him. He never emailed me. He never called me back. So I got paid $4,000 for 3 hours of work. But what it did was it really showed me my value. I needed to value myself and understand my value, not just what my time is worth, but what value did I bring to their company? And that's kind of where you come up with those numbers, is what value are you bringing to the people you're working with, and use that number, not just like, well, I'm only worth X number of dollars because I'm a VA in the Philippines, or I'm only worth X number of dollars because I'm a real estate assistant in the United States. No. If your real estate agents in the United States are selling $6 million houses and they're making 6% of that, they can stink and pay you more if you're doing all the work. So look at what value you're providing when you're coming up with pricing. We could do a whole other episode on pricing.
Yes, that's right. And it's something that not every entrepreneurs are very comfortable with. I started with it. I'm not comfortable, especially that I'm coming from the Philippines. That is the very first thing that came to my mind. How can I price um, at the same benchmark as everybody else is doing when I am not in their country? Or some people would label the job description as US VAs only, or you know what I mean. And I didn't realize that until we had that first talk, and you showed me that you're just the same as them. The only difference is that you're in different country. And from then on, that's what I was preaching,
Yeah.
that your value and my value could be the same based on the value that we are giving to the clients. It's not about
Yes.
color, race,
Location.
location. And I
Nope.
am so glad that we talked, that day, because it's really changed my mind. Mindset is the very first thing that people should change before
Mm-hmm.
anything else, before your branding story, before your sales funnel, before your strategies.
Mm-hmm. Yep. If you remember, like the very first thing that I said was that you needed to know the people that you're speaking to, and also realize that the people that you're speaking to are having the same struggles that you are, the same mindset struggles, the same everything. And if you can bring that confidence to the table, when you give them the numbers, when you give them the results, when you change their life, if you can bring that confidence with yourself when you come, you'll lift them up even more. So you can do more than VA work. You can do more than build a sales funnel. You can do more than give them a product. You can give them confidence, and you can help them build their own self-worth when you're working with them. And I think, honestly, Rosh, out of all the things, I mean, we talked about a lot of different things. And I think the number one thing that I saw in you was the change in your attitude and realizing your own value. You sat up taller, your voice got stronger,
Yes,
and you changed within yourself when you saw that there was no reason for you and I at that time to be charging the same amount of money because we were doing the same things. It doesn't matter where you live. And if anybody is working for anything less than living wages, take a second look at that, because the people you're working for, they're not working for anything less than living wages.
that's right. That's right. And that has been my message ever since.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the Passion and Purpose podcast was created. And that's also why it has been my advocacy to help the virtual assistant industry, because that's where I started. And
Mm-hmm.
I thank you for that so much, Sheila.
Welcome. I think you are awesome, and I hope to meet you face to face someday.
Someday, I will go there. You will go here. We will meet someday.
Yes, we will.
All right. As much as I want to keep going, Sheila. I wanted to keep the podcast on its 1 hour mark, more or less. But hopefully, we can do another episode anytime soon. But they can listen to you, of course, in your podcast. Let me just pull that up. By the way, everyone, you can find Sheila. Where is that? Oh, come on. I missed it. Hold on. Sheila, why don't you help me out, please?
Sure,
Invite
no problem.
people to listen to your
Yep.
podcast, to your website, and to every single social media platform that you can be found.
So if you go over to themessybackend.com, you'll find me and my podcast, all my social media links, my woman's network, and my digital marketing agency, all right there. So themessybackend.com, and we're on all the major platforms for podcasting too. And we just have experts from all over the world. We're coming up on episode. We've recorded more than 100 now. I think I have 113
Wow.
actually recorded. So yeah, it's crazy how many episodes we have now, but they're all really, really good.
I can really imagine. I just had you for an hour, and then I told you I can make like 5 blogs in this episode alone. And like everything is sensible every 5 minutes, I'm hearing something new. And I'm sure if I was if my mind was blown, the audience's mind will be blown too. So I'm excited, until they hear the whole episode. Thank you so much, Sheila, for being with me today, and I wish you all the best because you deserve all the best.
Thank you, Rosh. You do too, and you know it. So I'm giving you virtual hugs from over here in the United States.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening in to the Passion and Purpose podcast. And I hope that you will watch for the next episode with another exciting guest where we will give you another exciting adventure. Thank you for listening to the Passion and Purpose podcast. Join us next week for another inspiring adventures.